All right, I think we are live. Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of Sports Night. This is Sports Night episode 8, and tonight we have a really, really special episode. Hopefully everybody can see us, and let us know if you can't. But we have a great episode tonight. We have 2 special guests with us, and tonight we'll be talking about the Hall of Fame in the USA, all 4 major sports in the U.S., and we're going to kind of do a little bit of a debate tonight. We're going to talk about players we think should and should not be in the Hall of Fame. And with us tonight, as usual, is my partner channel, my buddy, my pal, Steve from stevesworld. Steve, welcome in, pal.
Thank you, sir. I am very excited that we have a couple special guests and a great topic to speak about. So that's going to be a fun night.
It definitely is. And also joining us this week, and thank you guys both for being here. I think this is going to be a lot of fun. First and foremost, we have Miguel from A Disney Life for Me. Miguel, welcome in.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. And, of course, none other than Jeff Dole dad as well. Jeff, welcome in, buddy.
What's going on, everybody? Thanks for the invite. Love it. Love this topic.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun tonight. And what we'll do, how we're going to kind of get this going is we're going to start in the NHL, and each one of us will go around, and each of us will pick one player we think should be in or shouldn't be in. And then we'll kind of debate it, whether we agree, whether we disagree. And then we'll move on from NHL to NBA. Then NFL, and we'll finish up with MLB. And everybody in the chat, please, you're very welcome to join along. Please give us your opinions on these. That's why you're here. We want to make this very interactive. And before we start, I do want to go out to the chat real fast and say hi to Kay Atwood, Angela from Pirate Princess Red, Jim from More Sunshine Please is here, Lorena Zapata is here, and John Hazelton, welcome in, buddy. Hope you're doing well. And Andrew Giorgi is here as well. Welcome in. But thank you, everybody. I think that might be, is that D or is that you, Miguel?
That's going to be D.
All right, that's D. D, welcome in as well. Thank you, everybody, for being here. And we're going to start. And Brian, welcome in, Brian. Good to see you, pal. Hope you're doing well. Brian's in as well, Brian Eisenhart. Thank you, buddy. Appreciate you being here. And let's start off with NHL, and we'll start Jeff, then we'll go Miguel, then we'll go Steve, and I'll finish up with mine. And guys, do we want to go should be in first, or should we start with shouldn't be in?
I say should be in first.
Should? All right.
The rest of them might get a little controversial.
You never know. The should might too. But all right. So, Jeff, who is your player in the NHL that you think should be in?
So, honestly, I have a strong opinion on the other 3, less so in hockey. Nothing against hockey, but it's hockey. But Jeremy Roenick. Jeremy Roenick should be in the Hall of Fame. I actually went back 3 times, and I'm still not sure. Like, is Google just wrong? How is he not in the Hall of Fame? He was one of the big stars, for a generation. Yeah, I've got another couple that I could talk about, but in the end, I don't know enough about hockey to be real passionate. But Jeremy Roenick, I believe, should be in the Hall of Fame. I think he took the Blackhawks to at least 1 title. Certainly was one of the best players of the era. Jeremy Roenick.
That's a great pick. Miguel, what do you think about that pick?
Yeah, as I mentioned to Steve, I'm gonna probably abstain in this conversation.
Wow.
I don't know enough. To weigh in heavily. I mean, I watch some hockey, but it's just not enough to really be able to meaningfully weigh in.
I totally understand. I think I know for 3 of us, I'm the same way. It's probably my least. That I'm the least educated on of the 3, so I tend to agree with you there. So I totally understand. Steve, what about you on Jeremy Roenick?
Sorry, I forgot about the mic. Yeah, he's an incredible player. I did the same thing Jeff did. I took a double take and went, how is he not in the Hall of Fame?
Yep.
It might be because he's only 49 years old and he's maybe not been out enough, but he's deservingly so for sure.
I think he's controversial. People don't like him. He's got a personality. He says what he means. He's political. That's my 2 cents.
Absolutely. No, I agree. Jeremy Roenick was a great player. It wasn't my pick, but I agree. I'm not quite sure why he didn't get into the Hall of Fame as well. I agree. Now, Miguel, I know that you're going to pass on NHL, but we'll get to you on the other 3. Steve, what about you? Who is your should be for the NHL?
Well, I had a couple, but the one I think should be most is Dominic Hasek, and that's maybe one of the greatest goaltenders of all time, in my opinion.
Buffalo Sabres, is that right?
Well, he played for Buffalo, Chicago, Detroit, and Ottawa.
Okay.
So, but he played 16 seasons. He won the I'm going to pronounce it wrong, but the Vezina Trophy, which is like I think the best goaltender award. He won it 6 times in 16 seasons. He won the Hart Memorial Trophy a couple times, and it's just as a goaltender, it's obviously one of the most important positions to play in hockey. He won some awards. It was one of the first people at that position to win a lot of the awards that he won, and he earned the nickname the Dominator. So I mean, obviously he was decent at something. So I think my pick is Dominic Hasek.
I want their nickname. That's a great nickname.
Yes.
Yeah. Jeff, what do you think about Dominic Hasek?
Yeah, I looked at goalies, and Curtis Joseph almost was one of the guys I picked. He had a great career, and he was not in there, but yeah, he was dominant. Oh, kind of easy.
Yeah, absolutely. Great pick. So for me, I went with, I think he's a Hall of Famer. The more I looked at his numbers, I'm not quite sure why he didn't get in. I think probably because he was injury prone and didn't have a very long career. So his numbers didn't build up. And that to me is Eric Lindros. Okay, that was my pick. I'm sorry. 200 goals, 369 assists, 659 points in 486 games. He reached 70 points 7 times. His career points per game average is 19th all time. That's more than Pavel Bure, who is in the Hall of Fame. I think injuries cut his career short. I think if he didn't have the injuries, the numbers would be there. I think Eric Lindros is coming out of college. He was like the guy. He was this monster of a figure playing hockey. I think that's my pick. What do you guys think of Lindros?
I love that pick. I think the high expectations crushed him. They thought he was supposed to be Gretzky or better, and no one's going to be
Nobody's. That's exactly right. Nobody's Wayne Gretzky, dude. I agree 100%. Yep, I agree.
Yeah, I think Lindros will get into I mean, he's only 46 years old, so I think he will get into the Hall of Fame eventually. He just didn't everybody said he was supposed to be better than Wayne Gretzky, and he just didn't live up to that. Mm-hmm. But he was still an incredible player with great numbers, and I think he'll get in eventually.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, there are certain guys that, I don't know if it's just because of I don't know. They just don't get in, but hopefully in time he will. And all right, so let's move on from there again because we got 3 more to go, and I know they are really going to build up some topic to talk about. What about shouldn't be for you, Jeff?
Glenn Anderson. There's no way we know who he is. There's no way he makes the Hall of Fame if he's not right next to Wayne Gretzky. 80 to 86 on the Oilers. He's Wayne Gretzky's due to get past the puck.
Okay.
Sorry, Mr. Anderson.
Yeah. Okay. I understand that pick. I was looking. It's funny you said that because when I looked up some of the lists of people that thought who should or shouldn't be in, he makes the list near the top. And a lot of lists.
I would be happy to be the guy that Wayne Gretzky was passing to all the time, but I wouldn't expect to get in the Hall of Fame. But whatever, it's not his fault. But yeah.
I understand. I totally get that. Steve?
So I had several that I think are deserving not to be in the Hall of Fame, but I'll stick with my. Actually, you know what? I'm going to change it. I'm going to go with Clark Gillies. He was a left wing. I want to stick with a goalie, but I'm not going to do that. So this guy really only had 2 good years. And at that time, he only finished 9th and 13th in points in those years compared to a hockey, in my opinion, that is not as good or athletic as it is today. Mm-hmm. And he only, outside of those 2 years, he only finished in the top 60 2 more times in his career. So I don't know how a guy that doesn't finish in the top 60 in points more than 4 times gets into the Hall of Fame. Mm-hmm. But that's my guy.
Gotcha. Great pick. Jeff, any consensus there?
I mean, what he said. Yeah. I'm still jealous of Glenn Anderson. So there.
No, I understand that pick, Steve. You're right. I think of all the sports, hockey is the one where you see people where you scratch your head and you're like, how are they in? Of the 4 majors, for me, that was just my opinion. But my guy is, and I kind of went easy on this one. I talked about Pavel Bure beforehand, and that's my pick. And in my opinion, for as many goals as he got in his career, he probably gave up just as many goals. He was not a very smart player. His sample size is extremely small as well. Again, another guy who was injury-ridden. And in my opinion, if you don't put Lindros in, I don't see how he gets in.
Right.
His numbers aren't as good as Lindros' numbers. and yet he's in, but Lindros is not. For me, that was I kind of went, that was an easy pick for me. That's my pick there. Any opinions? No.
No, look, hockey today is not hockey what it was. And
no.
Unfortunately, it's like they said, oh, the other sports have a Hall of Fame. We need a Hall of Fame for hockey. Let's do it. And then they started putting anybody that wanted to fill positions because some of these guys you look at now, there's no way you get them in the Hall of Fame with the way hockey is today. Hockey has progressed immensely from where it used to be. So, I mean, it's full of a lot of early picks that don't need to be there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but wouldn't you say, and without getting into it too much, can't you say that about a lot of other sports as well, though?
I think there's a lot more people and well-known athletes in all of the other sports, and they're more popular. I think being more popular, you know, some of these other sports have maybe either been around longer. You know, hockey in the United States was not popular until recently.
That's true.
So it's become a whole lot different than it was.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. And in the chat, a lot of people are just talking hockey. I know Meg's a big hockey fan, and a few other people are talking about hockey as well. I think it was Kay Atwood or somebody said, oh, no, it was Sherry who said she was watching the one of the hockey games right now. So hockey has become – I think hockey is much more popular today than it used to be, though. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's more watchable. I don't want to be one of those Americans who doesn't like hockey because it's hard to watch on TV, but it's hard to watch on TV. Live, it is a blast. On TV, it's not – I mean, come on, football is easy to watch. Even baseball is easy to watch, even though people disagree. Hockey's a little rough on TV. Live, it's awesome. But
yeah, and I guess that's part of it, too. I mean, it's about the attention span of whether or not a game can keep your attention. And for a lot of people, not understanding offsides and things like that, if you don't understand the game, it's hard to follow it as well.
Yeah.
Agree?
Yeah, that's true.
Right. No, I agree. And Meg says because she thinks it's the best sport because all other sports are boring.
Yeah. I thoroughly enjoy watching hockey. I'll watch it over an NBA basketball game.
Well, because they travel every time they touch the ball.
Exactly. We'll get to that. We'll get to that.
Exactly.
Stop flopping. It's not soccer.
And speaking of the NBA, this is where we're going to get Miguel involved now. I do want to move on to NBA because this is the one. Look, I'm sorry. I'm an old guy. I get it. I was around during the days of Showtime and the Celtics and Larry Bird and Magic Johnson.
You're an old guy.
Those guys. I'm gonna take those guys over these guys today. I don't care how much bigger they are. They were the bomb. But I do want to talk. Jeff, we'll start with you again, buddy. Let's start with should be. Who is your pick? Okay. It should be in the Hall of Fame that is not.
So there's two for me, and it was really hard for me to decide which one to talk about. So I'm going to cheat. I'm going to throw them both in there right now. Tim Hardaway was almost the guy I'm talking about, and no, not the guy in the NBA now. His daddy. He was great. He was dominant. I loved to watch him play, but I'm actually not going with him. I'm going with Shawn Kemp. Now, as a human being, he's not going to make the Hall of Fame. Kind of putz. Didn't go to Kentucky because he stole from the coach's son, you idiot. So he's kind of an idiot, all right? But he went straight to the NBA, 6 All-Star games. And you know what? I'm not like Mr. Flash. Like I'm old school. I think like you are, Walt. I like, you score a touchdown, hand the ball to the official. I don't need all the dancing in the end zone for the NFL, all that. That said, Shawn Kemp changed the game with his dunks. He was amazing. He would dunk the ball in such a way that everyone stopped to watch. And he was dynamic again. 6-time All-Star. Hardaway was a 5-time All-Star. I think he should be in the Hall of Fame. I think he was one of the most dynamic players ever. I think he was Dominique Wilkins, but stronger and better. And he didn't score as much as Dominique, but right there with the excitement. And I liked watching him a lot. So Shawn Kemp for me.
Okay. Miguel, what do you think of that pick?
Yeah, like Jeff, I had 2 on my list. Kemp wasn't one of them. And I would say I'm not. So I want to go ahead and preface everything I say with this. I think basketball allows way too many people into the Hall of Fame. So I just want to go ahead and kind of preface it there. But I think Kemp didn't do it long enough. I think he was out of shape most of his career. He came up small in a lot of big moments. And so I never – when he's playing in a day where you have your Karl Malones, you have even your older Charles Barkley, you have these power forwards that played the game so well. I never saw him even nearing the level of some of those guys. So I don't know. I don't know that I would make a big push for Kemp to be. I thought he had a couple of good years, got the Supersonics to the finals once, lost to Jordan's Bulls. There's no shame in that. But I don't know. I don't know that I'm taking him even top 6 or 7 in his day. So, yeah, I don't know.
Steve?
Yeah, I got mixed feelings about Kemp. I'm not a fan of, which I think he was the first kid, maybe the first kid to come out of high school and go straight to the NBA, at least the first notable kid to do it. I'm a fan of making sure kids. What's that?
I think Moses Malone did it first, but he was certainly early.
Yeah, but he was right there with Moses Malone in that respect. I agree.
Yeah, but Kemp, I agree, was revolutionary, and he changed the way the game looked. He hit, like Jeff said, with his dunks. He came in and did things that people just weren't doing. So he was a trendsetter for what we see today. But like Miguel said, I'm not sure. You got to. I put things on the entire body of work. Even though he was instrumental in changing the way the game is played, I don't think his overall career was long enough, and I also don't think his off-court antics will allow him to get in anytime soon.
Gotcha. Okay. And for me, I got to go with the consensus. I think your off-the-court stuff does count in your Hall of Fame, unless you are head and shoulders. I'm sorry?
I bet this will come up in baseball.
Well, but let me preface that, because it's not that black and white, cut and dry either. It's unless you are head and shoulders, maybe the greatest of all time, where it just can't be overlooked.
He might be.
Fringe, I'm sorry?
He might be, but we're talking baseball.
Well, we'll get the baseball. But if you're a fringe player for me, yes, I'm sorry. It's going to play a part for everybody. But if you're a fringe player, it's going to hurt you. You have got to be unbelievably slam dunk for me. And Kemp was, as much as he is a slam dunk guy, no pun intended, he was a one-dimensional player. I thought he was pretty good. He was. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I if he got in, it wouldn't be the end of the world, but he wouldn't be my first pick. That's just me. But great pick, Jeff. What about you, Miguel? Who's your pick? Who's your should?
Yeah, so I was wrestling between two. I won't mention the second one in case somebody mentions it, but I actually did pick Tim Hardaway. So Tim Hardaway, 5-time All-Star, 5-time All-NBA, gold medalist. And there's something for me, that this matters. And I know some people don't like the eye test, but when you were playing the teams he was the point guard for, you knew you had to deal with him. You knew you had your hands full. He did it with the Warriors, had some injury problems, but then with the Heat, came back, had some really good seasons, and they were tough. They were a really tough basketball team. I think point guard is the most cerebral, the most important position on a basketball court. At least I think it used to be more important. Now the game's changing a bit, but and I thought he was a floor general. He averaged almost 18 points a game, averaged just over 8 assists a game, almost 2 steals a game. I think his whole body of work, didn't win a championship, didn't get defensive honors. I think those things matter. But certainly I think when we look at the point guards that are in the Hall, Tim Hardaway, I think, belongs in there.
Got you. Jeff, what do you think of Tim Hardaway?
I love that pick. I went with Kemp mostly because he had 6 All-Star games versus 5 and the dunk thing, but Hardaway was right there for me. The other thing against Hardaway for me was when he became a star, he had Chris Mullin on one side, he had Mitch Richmond on the other. And I love both of those guys. Those are both top 100 players. So not unlike the hockey thing. And I'm not saying there was a Gretzky there, but he was great. I mean, he was my next choice, and it was really close. It was hard for me to pick. So it's a great pick. But in the end, I went with Kemp's longer dominance. 6 versus 5 is close in my mind. And, Kemp didn't exactly get surrounded by anybody good compared to Hardaway. But I do agree. Miguel just said it. The floor general back then, the point guard back then was even more important. And boy, was he one. He was one of my favorite players. So I think that's a great pick.
Great pick. Cool. Steve, Tim Hardaway, what do you think?
Well, I think he's fantastic. And I do want to clarify to make sure maybe I misspoke. I am for the off-court antics, I do not think should be considered for Hall of Fame stuff. So okay. just for future reference when that comes up, I think your body of work on court is what should determine whether or not you make the Hall of Fame. So, but anyways, let's.
O.J. Simpson would agree.
Yeah. Yes, yeah, he might come up too, but no. Tim Hardaway, though, I mean, look, Tim Hardaway, he revolutionized, like you guys said, the floor general position. In my opinion, the point guard there is no greater leader on a team than the point guard is, and that's because they control the game, just like catching in baseball.
Yep.
The catcher sees the entire field. He's the general on the field. The point guard's the general on the field. He's the general that calls out the plays, the person that can see everything, that can change the plays on the fly. He's the quarterback of the basketball world. So, no, I have no problem with that pick whatsoever.
And me too. Actually, and I'll just preface it, Tim Hardaway was my pick. So he's a distributor on the court. That's what a point guard does. It's not just about scoring; it's about feeding the rest of the team. He was great. I think maybe one day he will get into the Hall of Fame. Not yet, but I think he will get there. I think he's fantastic. And you guys said it. He's a 5-time All-Star. He's a NBA one-time all-time NBA first team, 3-time NBA second team. He helped turn the Heat around. When he went to the Heat, he made them a contender. He helped put them back on the map. He had a long career. He was very successful, and that would have been my pick anyway. So that will skip me, but that was my pick. I love Tim Hardaway. Great pick. So, Steve, what about you, buddy?
So I'm kind of going with a homer pick, but it's more. I think it's because it's more deservedly so, and I'm going with George McGinnis, and that's because Indiana, whether people like to admit it or not, Indiana is the basketball capital of the world. It has been for quite some time. And he was born in Indiana. He's born in Indianapolis. He was Mr. Basketball in Indiana, went to school at Indiana University, became an Indiana Pacer. But outside of all that, the reason why I think he's not in the NBA or the Hall of Fame is because he played part of his seasons in the ABA before the NBA became around. So, but combined, though, the guy had 6 All-Star appearances, both 3 in ABA, 3 in the NBA. He made the All-Star, or he made the all-time team in the ABA. He made ABA's all-time team. He made the first team and second team in both several times. He was an All-Star. I mean, he won ABA's most valuable player. The guy had his number retired by the Pacers, and he finished and ended his career in Indiana, which is one of the other things I like about him. But he averaged 20.2 points a game and 11 rebounds a game. He averaged a double-double for his career and still had 3.7 assists. So I think his or did he, you know what? I'm just now reading something else. I read this. It said he wasn't in the Hall of Fame. Now I'm reading it that he is.
Well,
is he or is he not in the Hall of Fame?
I don't know, but if he is, you were right. So there you go.
Okay. Well, I read earlier that he wasn't, and then I'm just now reading that he was just inducted in September of 2017.
They were listening. They made a change right there. Boom.
Well, never mind. My guy's in the Hall of Fame. He's deservedly so.
Way to go.
So switch that to Vlade Divac. He should be in there. I'm not even going to go in there anymore.
My top 5. I like that one.
Vlade, so, I like Vlade too. I think that's a good
Vlade
pick.
deserves to be in.
He'll get in. I think he will. I do. That was fantastic. All right, Jeff, back to you, buddy.
Are we on the guys that shouldn't be?
Who's in that shouldn't be in?
So real quick, before we do that, since I'm going to throw a name out there. This was the one I was wrestling with. Chris Webber. I think he might be a guy that fell victim to the expectations.
Yep.
I mean, you have a guy that everybody thought was going to be all world, but he had a pretty good career most of his life. His Kings days, They were the Houston Rockets of today, right? The team that was right on the doorstep, couldn't quite get over the Lakers or the Spurs, depending on what year. So just one that I was considering. I ultimately went with Tim Hardaway, but I thought Weber deserves some consideration.
I looked at Weber too. I think he gets stuck calling one too many timeouts in our memory bank.
Yeah. So anyway, just a thought there.
All right. No, I get that. You know, that he is really victim to that NCAA championship game so much. And I really don't know that it was necessary. That's a whole nother
No, that's the coach's fault.
That's
100%.
exactly right. That's
Coach's
exactly
fault.
right. I mean, if you ever watched the 30 for 30 on that, I think it was 30 for 30 on that. Supposedly going down the sidelines, this team was saying no timeouts, and he thought they said go timeout, as if to say call it.
Right.
Yeah, that's a whole nother story. That guy is victim to one play, just happened to be at the wrong time. He's a great player.
I love that.
He made the Bullets, well, which are now the Wizards. He actually made them relevant for a while when he played for the Bullets at that time. So I understand that pick. I have no problem with that. Jeff, who shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame?
This was one of the easiest ones for me. I looked at the list. It was easy to pull up. Bill Bradley. Bill Bradley made one All-Star team. Bill Bradley on his career averaged 12 points and 3 rebounds. I'm a fat 49-year-old. I'm pretty sure I could get 3 rebounds. I doubt I could score, but if they didn't cover me and they gave me the ball, I could probably get. But I think that Bill Bradley is not even close to a Hall of Famer. I think he's super, super famous. He's a politician. He ran for president. I don't see what that has to do with the Hall of Fame. It's the worst choice. It was the easiest pick for me on all of these.
Very good, very good. Miguel, what do you think of Bill Bradley?
I think Jeff's right on. He wasn't my pick. I'm making more of a statement pick with mine, but I think Bill Bradley certainly doesn't really deserve it, as do several people in the Basketball Hall of Fame. I'm good with that. Yep.
Steve, what do you think of Bill Bradley?
Well, luckily, I put multiple people on my list because he was on top of my list too. Because how does a guy that he clearly politicized his way into the Hall of Fame? 12 points a game and 3 rebounds a game. And I mean, he did nothing at all. I mean, you got people that come off the bench that score more than that. And, you know, he made one All-Star game, I think it was, but he was a politician, and that's what got him into the Hall of Fame.
Gotcha. Totally understandable. And everybody in the chat, thank you in the chat. I know there's a lot of ladies in there tonight. Thank you so much for hanging in with us. We definitely appreciate everybody that's out there tonight. Thank you for the support. We love talking sports on Saturday night, and we definitely appreciate everybody that's here. So great pick. Great pick, Jeff. Miguel, what about you? Who shouldn't be in?
All right. So as I just said, I made mine more of a statement pick here. So I picked Dino Raja. And the reason why is because it's the Basketball Hall of Fame and not the NBA's Hall of Fame. What ends up happening is that we get these foreign basketball players that had good careers overseas. They come to the NBA for a few years because they were all world, have very average, mediocre careers in the NBA, and then we stick them in the NBA to kind of say, hey, but you were great overseas, okay? But when they came to the stiffest competition, they didn't perform. And Dino Raja, I think, is the picture of this. As a power forward, he averaged 16, 17 points a game, and never dominant, never a guy that you feared from the other team, never took over games. I just don't see it. And if Tony Kukoc isn't going to be in the in the Hall of Fame, I don't see how we put And Tony Kukoc came off the bench a whole lot, So I think they're almost trying to like extend the global idea too much, where it's like, no, when they came to the stiffest competition, they were average basketball players. I just don't see it. So
totally got it. Jeff, what do you think of that pick?
He's right. Weber's not, Raja is. And here, talking about the European thing of Vlade. If Vlade's not in, how is Raja in? So I totally agree. It's not even close.
Gotcha. Steve?
I didn't even know he was in. I don't know why he would be. That doesn't make any sense. I agree. It's another one of those things, in my opinion, like hockey did. Basketball, I agree with Miguel. Basketball, it's way too many people in. I think it should be like 3 to 4 people maximum in every sport across the board every year, because otherwise you're just going to keep filling them up with everybody. And then you're going to wind up the same thing we did at the beginning where you started throwing people in, you're going to wind up doing soon because you're going to run out of people to put in there. So that I agree 100%.
Yeah, me too. I agree 100%. There's nothing more to add. I mean, what you said was basically spot on, Miguel. I agree. Steve, what about you? Who shouldn't be in the NBA Hall of Fame?
Well, I had two really, which I'll wait till after that you do yours just to give a second one. But the one I'm going to go with is Arvydas Sabonis. And look, the guy only played 7 years. And because I know he's injured a lot, he was a center that was over a 7-footer, 7'3" center. Only had averaged for his career 12 points and 7 rebounds a game. And he got in somehow. I have no idea how. No all-star games, no championships, no awards of any kind, anything that matters. How did he get into the Hall of Fame? I don't get it. It's just like his numbers aren't there. He had no awards or accolades whatsoever. And he only played 7 years. How does a guy like that get in?
Well, Miguel said it. It's the basketball, and he was one of the great international players ever, one of the great passing centers ever. But as it relates to NBA, you're totally right. As it relates to just basketball, if you're talking about international sports, he had a spectacular. But he was playing against guys like me, so
exactly. I don't know. When you play against the best of the best, but that's where it matters.
But this is the problem with the Basketball Hall of Fame. You're not quantifying it and calling it the NBA Hall of Fame. If you're saying Basketball Hall of Fame, you have to look at their entire, like Steve says, body of work. He was great overseas. That's the problem. You can't. You have to lump it all together. I'm sorry. He may not have been as great here, but he was great over there. And since they didn't do that, they didn't make it different. It all has to be looked at.
Yeah, but Walt, I get your point, and I get it. And I think that's one of the problems with the Hall of Fame. But when you're looking at the tougher competition, right? I mean, yeah, he dominated overseas, but now we get to see him with, I mean, I remember, and I was a kid, but I remember watching him play against Shaq, and a young Shaquille O'Neal just worked him. I mean, it was embarrassing.
But he would have worked anybody.
It was uncomfortable to watch. Like it looked abusive. And so I'm just saying, like, and I agree with Jeff. It was his passing. Sabonis could shoot threes in a day where centers did not shoot threes. So he had a certain skill set. But with the injuries, because longevity has to come into play. So I think it does. I mean, you have to be able to do it for a reasonable amount of time. And when he had NBA competition, he was average. So I think it's a fair pick, Steve.
Gotcha. Yep. So for me, my pick for the person who I don't think should be in there is Calvin Murphy. I'm sorry. I think he was a good player. This isn't the Hall of Good. This is the Hall of Fame. Okay? It's not – you can be really, really good. And I don't even think he was really, really good. 17.9 points, which is good. But for a guard, point guard, 4.4 assists. So you got to do better than that by a lot. Minimal accomplishments, no championships. He was an all-rookie first team, and he went to one All-Star game. That's it. And he's a horrendous person off the field. I don't even want to get into his.
He had 14 kids by 9 different wives.
Well, he also in 2000
9 different women. Sorry,
but in 2004 he had a sexual abuse case against 5 of his children.
Oh wow,
he's a horrendous person. And I'm sorry, for me that does play a part. It does. It's all part. I mean, in some of these Hall of Fames, it's written in the bylaws that you have to have a certain.
Yeah, character clause. Yeah.
Yes, there's a character clause involved. So for me, Calvin Murphy, fine player. He's not a Hall of Fame. What do you guys think of Calvin Murphy?
I'll go. I deeply agree. He made it because he made free throws. You know what? Nobody's guarding you. It's not that big a deal. So I that's so stupid. And I didn't even know he was putts. So, but he was on my list. But Bill Bradley was so not even average. I couldn't. but he was shocking to me that he's in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a fair pick. Yeah, I agree with you. And here's where I come in with the character piece. I think it always matters, like you said, Walt, when we're talking about a fringe player, and I'm not even sure that he's all that fringe, but a fringe player where you're kind of, is he, isn't he? Character for me can definitely make the difference, and so I'd be good with him not being in the Hall. Yeah,
gotcha. Steve?
Yeah, he was. His numbers didn't deserve. Again, yes, the off-field antics, I agree. I don't think should play a part. Whether I guess some of them do have. I didn't know they had a character bylaw.
I don't know about baseball,
but I don't think that should factor in. But even without that, he didn't have anything that would warrant being in the Hall of Fame at all.
Gotcha. All right, perfect. All right, so I think now we're going to move on to the two that I think for most of us are going to be the ones we're the most passionate about, most educated on, especially for me. And this ought to be good. I think we're going to have a good time with this. So the last two, we're going to do the National Football League next. Should we do the shoulds or the shouldn'ts first, gentlemen?
Start with the shoulds.
Starts with the shoulds. All right, then we'll start with the should. Jeff, who is your should? Who should be in?
So I've got three, but I'm not going to do what I did last time. I'll shut up and I'll share them at the end. I'm not a good listener, but I can learn. Lester Hayes was Dion before Dion was. Now, not on the punt return thing, but he was the first guy who created bump and run, to my knowledge, and he dominated the game. I hate the Raiders. I hate everything about the Raiders. I don't even like to say the Raiders. I can't not frown when I say the Raiders. I hate them. Can you tell I hate them? I hate them. But Lester Hayes was brilliant. I never wanted to play on the defensive side of the ball until I saw Lester Hayes. Now, he put all the gunk on his hands, and it was falling off, and everyone says that was cheating. It's not cheating. Throw that on there. It makes it harder to catch. It was about intimidation. He was close. He was so right in your face. I loved watching that guy, and he might as well have been on Satan's teams for all I care, but he was the best. And I can't believe he's not in there. And I want to tell you about the other two guys because they should be in there too, but I'll wait.
Okay. Miguel, what do you think of Lester Hayes?
I think it's a good pick. And I think, unfortunately, just sometimes – and there's a number of really good defensive players, but I think defense in general oftentimes gets overlooked a little bit, and we'll talk more about that down the road. But yes, I think Lester Hayes is certainly deserving, and hopefully still gets it. But I think certainly, I mean, Pro Bowl, Super Bowl champion, just an aggressive defensive back. I think good pick.
See?
Oh, absolutely. I think it way too often that defensive players don't get the accolades that they deserve because they're just not the showy people on the field at the time. So yeah, it's definitely a good pick.
And can I throw in there? He's a big Star Wars fan. He called himself the only Jedi in the NFL when he was playing.
Well, let's get him in then.
Right.
I have no problem with the pick either. The one thing I'll say about, and maybe we can say this about all the defensive players back in the day, could they play in today's game? How would Lester Hayes, being the bumper run guy in the face that he was, could he adjust in today's society of football that we see? I'm curious.
He'd be a gazillionaire. He shut down a whole side of the field when no one else did.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. Okay. I got it. Got you. Good pick. And what about you, Miguel? What's your pick, buddy?
All right. So I went back and forth quite a bit. I think my guy's going to get in, but since he's not yet, I figured I'd go ahead and throw him out there. So I've got Hines Ward, 4-time Pro Bowler, 3-time second-team All-Pro, Super Bowl MVP, 1,000 receptions, which puts him at number 14, meaning more receptions than Randy Moss, Andre Reed, Art Monk, and Michael Irvin.
Wow.
Best blocking wide receiver of all time. Aggressive, played football the right way. A huge part of the Steelers' success. A super athlete, played quarterback in college. I just think very deserving, and I'm surprised. It's only been 3 rounds that he hasn't been selected, but I would have thought he would have gotten in already.
My apologies, fellas. Got distracted by the dog. That's a great pick. I totally agree with that pick 100%. Jeff, what do you think?
He'll be in the Hall of Fame. Wasn't he the guy in Batman during the explosion running back the touchdown? I'm pretty sure he was. And I think the worst thing about him is he was horrible on Monday Night Football. But as a player, Absolutely, and he'll be in for sure.
Steve?
Yeah, he's all right. No, he's great. He's phenomenal. He'll be in. I'm actually surprised he didn't get in on one of the first 3 chances. So, yeah, he's phenomenal. He'll be there.
Gotcha. Yeah, I agree. Great pick. Great pick for sure. 100%. All right. And next, who's up? Who's next?
I am. I went back and forth with some too, but I think I'm going to stick with my original, and that's Jim Marshall. I think again, going back to defensive people not getting the accolades they deserve. Something that's really astounding about this guy is he played 282 games in the NFL, and he owns the record for the most consecutive games played by a defensive player at 282 games. Mm-hmm. He didn't miss a game. He is the Iron Man of football. He didn't miss a single game. He owns the most seasons played by a defensive player, tied with 2 other people. He has the most completed seasons played. He has the most consecutive starts played by a defensive player. He has the most fumbles recovered in history at 30. I mean, the guy, and he also has the most yardage lost on a fumble recovery, or did have at least, at 66 yards. So the guy he was a phenomenal defensive player. He won the NFL championship, or they won the Super Bowl. Actually, I don't even know if it was called the Super Bowl back then, but they won the NFL championship. He was elected to the Pro Bowl twice. He was 3 times second team all-time or All-Pro as well. He's also got his number retired as well. He's just a great defensive player, and I think he's very well deserved to be in the Hall of Fame.
Gotcha. Jeff, what do you think of that pick?
No argument. He was on the list. He's not either of the 2 that I wanted to mention, but certainly in the argument he should be in there. Surprised he's not.
Yep. Miguel?
Yeah, good pick. And these are the guys you kind of worry about because as time continues to pass, it's kind of less and less likely that they slide in. But I think definitely good pick. I think, like you said, Steve, part of it being that it's a defensive player. But if you think about that kind of, being able to play week in, week out in a day where they weren't making a ton of money, right? Mm-hmm. So I mean, a lot of these guys were playing football and then also having to work, and so to be able to kind of sustain that level of dominance, that level of play, I think it's a good pick. It's a good find on your part.
Yep, I agree 100%. Jim Marshall's great pick, and you never know, even though he's been on there for a while. Some of these guys get backlogged. If that's the right word, and I think he's one that definitely is highly deserving of it for sure.
Well, and I like to see people get to see themselves get into the Hall of Fame, and he's 81 years old. He's losing time. So
the last guy Steve mentioned made the Hall of Fame before we were done talking. So
yes,
that's right. He might. So for me, the guy I think I'm going to be a homer here. I don't understand why this guy isn't in the Hall of Fame. I think he's one of the greatest wide receivers to ever play the game. He's highly underrated. He's never talked about, and he's got all the numbers. And that's Isaac Bruce for the Rams. I'm sorry. I don't understand why this man isn't in the Hall of Fame. He's 5th all-time in receiving yards. The 4 that are ahead of him, 3 of them are in, and the other one is Larry Fitzgerald. He's going to be in. He's 13th in receptions. He's 12th in TDs. He led the league in receiving in 1998. He is a great receiver. This is an incredible player who played for some bad Rams teams. I love my team, but we were horrendous. He was the catalyst, one of the catalysts for the greatest show on earth, greatest show on turf. He's such a great player. And not only that, I got to say this about the guy. Character means everything to me. He is such a good person. When they asked him at the end of his career what his greatest catch was in his career, he said the greatest catch was Ricky Prohl catching the touchdown that put him in his first Super Bowl.
Oh, wow.
So it wasn't even his own catch. That was his greatest catch. This guy is a Hall of Famer on and off the field. I don't understand why Isaac Bruce isn't in the Hall of Fame. What do you guys think of that pick?
I'll go. I love that pick. I'm a Rams fan, too. I'm a Rams fan from way back in the day when they were in L.A. I think that he was one – I think the reason he's not in there is there's so many receivers with such gaudy numbers.
Right.
Isaac Bruce was absolutely one of the greats on every field he ever walked on. I think it's a great pick. And I know he's a great guy. that makes me happy.
Yeah, well, I agree with you 100%. I think, and this doesn't excuse it, I think he needs to be in the Hall of Fame. I think what may have happened with him is, as you said, a number of his years and in his prime, he was on bad football teams.
Yep.
And then when Kurt Warner came around, him and Torrey Holt kind of started to connect in a way, and the numbers exploded. And I think, but to me, Bruce was the better receiver. I mean, hands down, I thought he was better than Torrey Holt. I just think some of that comes into play in the discussion, and I think maybe he got lost in that mix a little bit. But I think he was outstanding and certainly deserving.
Steve?
Yeah, I agree. And his numbers, again, I don't necessarily care about the off state. I know you like your good guys, but his numbers alone speak for that. But again, he's only 47 years old. He has time to get in. I think he will get in. He is one of the most not necessarily underrated, but least talked about guys that is deserving to get in.
Yeah. That's all. He's a great, and he's one of my favorite players, and that's probably the only one I'm a homer on this, but that's my pick. So,
and if you think about it, maybe what's hurt him too is he's not half the diva that a lot of wide receivers are. He's not constantly.
Absolutely,
I agree.
Yeah, not that guy. Absolutely. So, great guys, great. Now let's get into who shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame. And Jeff, we're going to start with you, buddy. NFL, who shouldn't be in? That's in.
I'm going to break your rules, guys. I don't like rules in general, and I cannot follow rules. I got to give you two. Are you guys okay with me giving me two?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Ray Guy is not a Hall of Famer. You know why Ray Guy's not a Hall of Famer?
Because he's terrible.
He's a punter. I punted on my high school team. It's barely a football player. He shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame. It's stupid. I'm over it. Joe Namath, also not a Hall of Famer. Not even above average, in my opinion. He made a prediction. He sat in an ad on his underwear. He played in New York when they needed a star. Not a Hall of Famer. Ray Guy, Joe Namath, not Hall of Famers, but they are.
Miguel?
Yeah, Joe Namath was my guy. I think we fell captive to a moment. I mean, I remember even being a little kid and my dad telling me about when he was young, and this guy, Joe Namath, who guaranteed a win against the Goliath Colts and this and that. And great. That's awesome. But his numbers, and even if you watch like some of the replays of his games, he was average. He was average. He threw way more interceptions and touchdowns. He just wasn't a Hall of Famer. Yeah.
Steve?
He was on my. He wasn't. I didn't put him number one, but I had him as number one. But I got another one. But yeah, he's terrible. I mean, not terrible. Look. The guy had a career quarterback rating of 65.5.
Wow.
Not even close to anybody above him. There are so many mediocre quarterbacks that are way above him on quarterback rating. The guy made. He was a news guy, not a good football player. He's better than me. Don't get me wrong. He's better than me.
He's better than me.
Compared to the other people in the NFL, he was not. He did not have the numbers.
Yeah. And for me, okay, so Namath was my pick too. I agree 100%. He was my number one guy. He's a career record of 62 wins, 63 losses, and 4 ties. He has completed more than half of his passes only 5 times in his career. He has a total career completion percentage of 50.1. He threw 173 TDs in 148 games, which is great, but he also threw 220 interceptions.
In an era where they didn't have DB playing.
And here's the thing. He made what put him on the map was the fact that it was the NFL and the AFL trying to merge, the Goliath Colts. And let me just tell you this right now. If Johnny Unitas had started that game, they wouldn't have won. Okay, Unitas came in late in the fourth quarter, and on his only drive, he drove the ball down the field, got a touchdown. Final score was 16-7. If they had started them in the game, I don't know that the Jets even win that game. That's just my opinion. I'm from Baltimore, but that being said, for what it's worth, highly overrated player, nowhere near a Hall of Famer. That would have been my pick too. Great pick, Jeff. Great pick, Miguel. So that's most of us. So, Steve, we come to you, buddy.
So I got a couple more here. I'm just deciding which one I want to make people mad with. And, going back to Ray Guy too, Jeff had mentioned too. I agree. I have no problem with the punter getting in if the punter does, but that guy's like an average punter at best. I mean, But anyways, that's another story. I'm gonna go with Marcus Allen, and I'm gonna make some people mad, and that's because Marcus Allen played 16 years in the NFL, only had 1,000 yards 3 times. One of them was right at 1,000 yards. He played with some of the best, in my opinion, some of the best teams and the best talent at the quarterback position, and he only averaged 51.1 yards a game. That is not Hall of Fame numbers, in my opinion. The guy played 16 seasons and can only get to 1,000 yards 3 times. He did have a couple seasons. 3 of his first 4 seasons, he did catch more than 10 touchdowns, but he only did that 3 more times the rest of his whole entire career. And, he only averaged over 100 yards a game one time. He had one really, really outstanding season in 1985. He had 1,700 seasons, averaged 109 a game. Outside of that, there's nothing there. I mean, in my opinion, for a guy that played that long with really, in my opinion, really good quarterbacks and really good teams, his number should have been way higher than that. And I'm going to go with Marcus Allen.
Jeff, what do you think?
Deeply agree. He's a Raider. That's enough for me. He shouldn't be anywhere near the Hall of Fame. Also, his owner, Al Davis, who I also hate, not as much as I hate Satan, but right below him, Al Davis, one of the worst humans ever, said about Marcus Allen, he's just an average back. Marcus Allen was above average at best. No way he's a Hall of Famer.
Miguel?
Yeah, I'm going to disagree here. I think so. Steve mentioned his 2 big years, but also I'm just looking here. 93 led the NFL in rushing yards. I think he was also a different kind of back, a back that would fit much more in today's NFL than in his own day. I think he was a good pass catching back, and it was still not a huge part of offenses back then, but he did that well. He played on, even as an old man, he played on some bad Chief teams, and he had to do that. And I think, yes, fair point about the 1,000-yard seasons, but averaging over 4 yards a carry, that man's getting you a first down every 3 carries. I think that's really good. And you have almost 600 receptions in a day where you didn't throw a lot to the back. I don't know. I think he deserves to.
To me, Roger Craig and him are basically contemporaries. Roger Craig was much better, and Roger Craig ain't in the Hall of Fame.
Not yet. Well, I'm going to disagree. I'm sorry. I think Marcus Allen, he's a versatile back. It wasn't just about rushing yards. Look at his receiving yards. He has over 5,000 receiving yards.
Yeah, but it's 16 seasons. After his first 4 seasons, he never caught more than 500 yards a season.
But he's not supposed to. He's a running back.
Okay, but today, again, I don't know. I just disagree with that. Most of them were under 300 yards a season.
I know, but running backs aren't supposed to get anywhere near that kind of yardage in receiving yards at all. The guy scored like 21 touchdowns as a receiver.
He was really good at leaping. He was super good at leaping.
Yep.
If there's a leaping Hall of Fame, I'm in.
Well, I don't know. I have no problem with it being in. If he wasn't in, I wouldn't lose sleep over that either. I think he's a great two-player. He's versatile. He's very versatile. I'm surprised at that one. But you're right. That doesn't make me nasty.
And I go with, in my opinion, I go with the body work on numbers, and his numbers aren't there for some people that aren't in the Hall of Fame. It just doesn't. He's not even close.
Well, who's not in that he's not even close to?
Roger Craig.
Roger Craig was on my list to be in that didn't make it any.
Running back.
Right.
Played in a same kind. No, not the same kind of offense, but certainly.
Well, but you talked about him having great teams. Roger Craig was on great teams.
Yeah, but Roger Craig's numbers are better.
Roger Craig had Joe Montana and Steve Young.
But Roger Craig is on, but his numbers are better, and he's not in the Hall of Fame.
But he will be. His time's coming. I don't know. That's a toughie. I mean, if we're gonna quantify certain things,
I'm strictly by numbers.
Total respect. No, by all means, I totally get it. Like you said, 16 years. But how many years did he actually play? But of those 16 years, no, he played a lot of games. Okay, I'm looking at it.
He had a lot of longevity, and he only had what was considered 4 really good years. And those 1,000-yard seasons were all 3 of his first 4 years.
Okay.
After that, it was nothing.
But I think we also have to look. I mean, look, rushing touchdowns, right? So he's got 11, 13, 11, 12, 12, 11. I mean, even in today's NFL, you're leading the NFL that way. Like, so even in years where he didn't have a ton of yardage, he had a number of touchdowns, even rushing the football. So I think those things have to be factored in as well. I thought he was more of a glider. And again, I think more of today's NFL running back, but I don't know. I would say he needs to be in.
I can't wait. We're arguing about Marcus Allen. I can't wait till we get to baseball. This is gonna be awesome.
Well, you give me the ball on the 1 yard line as many times as he got it. I'm going to score some touchdowns too.
I want to see you jump. Right.
Fair enough. All right. Well, there we go. That's our shouldn't in NFL. And now we're going to move on to probably, I think, the one where we're going to get the most debate. And this might, well, we're already at 9:30. Thank you, everybody in the chat, for hanging in there.
Can I throw in my other 2 NFL?
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Because I shut up and I was proud of myself because I never do that.
These do's or don'ts.
These are guys that should be.
Okay.
LC Greenwood, part of the Steel Curtain, Pittsburgh Steelers, defensive end, a talented team, no doubt. Joe Green took a lot of blockers, no doubt, but that dude was a beast. And then Zach Thomas, Dolphins, should be in the Hall of Fame, was a dominant linebacker on very, very average teams for a long time. I thought he is in the College Football Hall of Fame. Texas A&M maybe? Wouldn't swear to that. But should be and probably will be in the NFL Hall of Fame. I couldn't shut up. Sorry.
That's all right. Great.
Yeah, I'm actually a Miami Dolphins fan, and Zach Thomas was unbelievable. I think he'll get there. I don't know that like I'm not super shocked he's not there yet, but I think he'll get there. Certainly deserving.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good. All right. Well, let's move on to Major League Baseball.
So let me just say, I'm going to like all of you at the end, even if you're wrong on this part, okay?
I'm not wrong on this one. I promise you that. This is where you're wrong. No, I'm just kidding.
I have a feeling you and I might be on the same page, Jeff. We'll see.
We'll see.
I'm anxious to find out what you guys think.
I think where we're going to go with this might need to be another stream. That's my opinion.
Do until Monday.
I think, I agree. But let's start with, I think on this one we should start with shouldn't. What do you think? I think we should start with shouldn't. And we'll save the should for last because I think that's going to be where we really get into debating. So, Jeff, in your opinion, Major League Baseball Hall of Fame, who shouldn't be in?
I have 4. I'm only going to give 1. I'll wait till the end. All 4 of them, no way they should be in the Hall of Fame. The most, oh man, they're all insanely egregious. I'm going to go kind of an old guy, Bill Mazeroski. He's in there because he hit 1 home run. They had a great MASH episode. What are we doing here? It's stupid. 299 on base percentage, not batting average, on base percentage. He was very good defensively. That's great. He's not a Hall of Famer, and there's 3 more that are just as bad. There's no way Bill Mazeroski should be in the Hall of Fame. He had 1 home run that we all know and love, and it's iconic. Who cares? Kirk Gibson ain't in the Hall of Fame. It's not even close.
Right. Miguel, what do you think of that pick?
Yeah, I think it's a good pick. That was one of the ones I had considered. I've got my ideas here. You guys are definitely more. I'm more of an NFL guy and then baseball, so you guys are going to be ahead of me here. But I agree. He was one of the ones I was considering. So,
Steve?
Oh, he's on my list. So that's definitely. He actually was number 1 on my list, but I'm glad I did the same thing and wrote down 5. So we'll get to the. I'll pick a different one.
Okay. No, I agree. Mazeroski was a good player, good second baseman, but it's not just about. Look, I always say this, Steve. You said it yourself. It's the full body of work. So you can be a great defensive player and not the best offensive player, but you better be a great defensive player and have at least fairly good numbers. And you're right, 299 on base percentage is horrendous. But he also, I agree. I'm not disagreeing.
That's a complete lack of offense.
Yeah. No, I agree. No.
That's if the DH is around, let the pitcher hit.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, good pick. I'm with you. I agree. Miguel, who do you got, buddy? Who shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame?
All right, so I got Burt Blyleven. No Cy Young, only 2 All-Star appearances, never led the league in ERA or strikeouts. So that was my pick.
All right, gotcha. Burt Blyleven. Jeff, we'll start with you. You look upset.
I love you, Miguel. Burt Blyleven had one of the great curveballs in the history of baseball. Struck out almost 4,000 guys, pitched for teams that couldn't win if they were playing against Sisters of the Poor every week. Burt Blyleven, I love that he's in the Hall of
But
Fame.
never led in strikeouts. Never.
I mean, so he wasn't the best ever in one season, but he had what, 3,700 or something? I don't know. I'm not looking.
He played 22 seasons too.
Yeah, that's pretty. I played 0, so that was way better than me. I think he ended in the top 10 all time in strikeouts. Like, that's when you go up to bat and you don't even hit the ball. That's pretty freaking awesome, if you ask me. So I love Burt Blyleven, and he was on horrible teams too. So I don't know. I love Burt Blyleven.
Great. Okay.
I got a bunch of guys that shouldn't make the Hall. So
Steve, what do you think of Burt Blyleven? Yes.
I mean, he's one of those guys that I could see if they let 20 people a year in, and when he's 85, get in. I have no problem with him getting in, but I mean, to get in is over some of the other people that aren't in. I've got an issue with, but I think he's deserved eventually to get into the Hall of Fame, just not over some of the people that have still been slighted.
Okay. So for me, when I think of Burt Blyleven, I look at his lifetime ERA. He's got an ERA of 3.31. That's not bad. I mean, that's not bad at all. The guy won 300 games. No, I'm sorry, won 267 games over 287. I'm sorry, I can't see it. 287 in 22 seasons. He also lost 250. He lost a lot of games. Mm-hmm. So, he had a lot of decisions.
Babe Ruth struck out a lot of times.
He did. He struck out a total of 3,700 batters, but he never – did he ever strike out 300 batters in a season? No. Did he ever strike out? He struck over
like 8 people ever have done that.
Yeah, I know. But I think longevity helps him. And like you said, it's all part of it. You still got to be good enough to play. And I mean, he was still good enough to play. I mean, one of his final 3 seasons, he won 17 games. So I have no problem with him in or out. If he wasn't in, it wouldn't be a travesty of justice. But if he is in, I think his numbers kind of warrant it. So that's my opinion on Burt Blyleven. Steve, who is your shouldn't?
Man, I got a few, but I'm gonna go with Herb Pennock because
you're going way back.
I'm going way back. This is going back to like the 1920s. But so he's okay. He got in because he played for the Yankees, and he's another product of, hey, here, let's have a Hall of Fame, put some people in it, whatever. But for his career, he is only 6 percentage points higher in ERA than the average pitcher is. I'm just not sure how he gets in if he doesn't play for the 1920 Yankees. Yeah. He just wasn't that good, in my opinion. He did play 22 seasons, 3 different teams, had a longevity career, but he didn't have any numbers to go with it. And I think by the fact that he played for the Yankees in the 20s and that he was early in his career or early in baseball history, I think he was automatically given into the Hall of Fame instead of earning his way. I mean, his ERA is not even close to being good.
Gotcha. Okay. Jeff, what do you think of Herb Pennock?
He's right. Shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame. He was the best pitcher on a team that didn't need pitching. They were the best offensive team in the history of baseball at the time. He was their best pitcher. He was average. I can't believe you went all the way back to the 20s. I love that you did. He doesn't make my list of people that clearly shouldn't be on there, but only because I didn't think anybody would ever heard of him. He shouldn't have been a Hall of Famer.
Miguel?
Yeah, I'm one of those who hadn't heard of him. Yeah, no, I thought Steve made a good case, though. I'm looking at some of the stuff here. I can't really weigh in too much on this one, but yeah, I think if we consider what we've said throughout the night, being on good teams, having good teammates, or being caught in a particular moment in time, right? Like the Joe Namath situation. That's how you get guys into the Hall that don't belong there. And so, I think that's
and being a Yankee in a time where most of the media was in New York, certainly had a piece of that.
Helped. Oh, I agree. Yeah, I agree on Herb Pennock. I have no problem with it. The numbers don't warrant it. Again, I don't know. Was Herb Pennock was he? They have in baseball. They have the Veterans Committee that allows people in, and I wonder if maybe that's where he got in.
I don't know. You might be right.
Yeah, it might be. So for me, I think this is one that's going to really stir up a lot of problem and controversy. I think all of you are going to disagree with me on this one, but I don't think this guy. Again, it's not the Hall of Good. It's not even the Hall of Very Good. It's the Hall of Fame, and I don't think Kirby Puckett has the numbers that puts him into the Hall of Fame. I'm sorry. When I look at his numbers, he had 207 home runs for an outfielder. Remember the position he plays. Outfielder, 1,000 RBIs, 134 stolen bases, lifetime batting average is very good, 314. But I'm sorry, he's not even in the top 25 for outfielders of all time. I thought he was a very good player who played well at times, short career. I don't think the numbers warrant Kirby Puckett as a Hall of Famer. I think he's an excellent player, but I'm sorry, I don't see it. Jeff, what do you think?
If he's a Hall of Famer, so is Lenny Bias. He's in the Hall of Fame because he died young. You're totally right. He shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame. He was a good ball player. He was fun to watch. He made one of the great clutch catches ever. One of the best players on a team. Not a Hall of Famer. You're totally right.
Miguel?
Oh, you guys are going to kill me for my pick.
Did we skip you?
No.
Oh,
we haven't done what belongs, I'm saying. So you guys are
okay.
going to kill me for the guy that I say belongs in.
No.
I think Puckett does. I mean, I'm just looking here. So you got 10 times All-Star, 6 Gold Gloves, 6 Silver Slugger Awards. So he's got the offense and the defensive recognition. 318 is what it's saying here. I think you said 316 or whatever. It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
It's a
right
solid batting average, over 200 home runs, over 1,000 RBIs. I mean, yeah, I think he's deserving.
And here's why I don't agree with the All-Stars, because it's voted on by the fans. Popularity gets you in.
Well,
Yeah.
every team gets a player, and he was on the Twins, and he was clearly the only
Sure,
guy.
the better.
Exactly. And that's why I don't really read All-Stars as much with that kind of stuff. Only because
It depends on the team.
plays a part.
Sometimes that matters. Sometimes it doesn't.
It does, because you got to be good enough to even be considered.
Right.
But popularity a lot of times will rule out sometimes.
Well, it is the Hall of Fame, so maybe an argument is his popularity.
Right. Steve, what do you think of Puckett?
I'm kind of mixed on this, but I don't think I don't think his numbers warrant him getting in, which is, he's the feel-good story Hall of Fame pick, in my opinion, because of but he only played 11 seasons. He didn't even get there till he was 24 years old. He retired at 35, obviously because of his conditions or whatever he had going on. But yeah, and I mean, his numbers, although he had some good accolades, All-Stars and things like that, he was a good defensive player. I have no problem with the Golden Gloves whatsoever. I just don't think his career was long enough to warrant some of those other numbers that you need. But now 1,000 RBIs in 11 seasons would have turned to 2,000 RBIs in 21 seasons. So it depends on how if he could have gotten longer.
But we can't project. But you can't project woulda, coulda, shoulda. I
agree 100%. I'm just saying he could have maybe gotten there, but because of his shortened career, I just don't think all of his numbers warranted him getting in.
Right. So that's all. That's my pick. I love Kirby Puckett. I think he's a great guy. I love him as a player. Yeah. I can't put him in the Hall.
I do think he's deserved over a lot of people that are in there, though, that shouldn't be in. But
I love Kirby Puckett too, but no.
Yeah. All right. So here we go. This is where I think we're really going to probably take a half an hour. Maybe not. But Jeff, who should be in the Hall of Fame?
So wait, when do I get to talk about the other guys who certainly should not be in the Hall of Fame?
Oh, let's do that now. Go ahead.
You want to do that now?
Yep, we'll do that
Jim
now.
Rice should not be in the Hall of Fame. It's
I
not
agree.
even close.
Agreed.
Phil Rizzuto should not be in the Hall of Fame. It's not even close. Same thing with not even remotely close. He was a funny, sportscaster. And Hoyt Wilhelm. It's asinine. He started like 4 games of his whole career. He was an above-average reliever. He got in because he threw a knuckleball. I can throw a knuckleball. He couldn't let me play in Major League Baseball. It's nothing. It's stupid. Not even close. I'd love to hear what the other ones. I know you guys had bigger lists.
I had 2. Yeah, sorry.
I'm sorry.
No, I agree with those picks. Yeah, I didn't go too deep into mine, but yeah, I have no objections there.
Okay.
So.
Steve, any objections to those?
No, I had them on my list as well, along with Lou Brock and Bruce Sutter. Bruce Sutter is the other one I almost went with.
I mean, I looked at them, but
Interesting. Yeah, see, I agree, but I think Bruce Sutter was a very good pitcher, and Lou Brock was very good. But again, I don't know that they were. I mean, I have no problem with that.
Lou Brock, I could argue. Lou Brock, most steals ever at that record Cobb held for almost 180 years.
Yeah,
and he had 3,000 hits, and he had a long career, and he was one of the better players on his team for a long time. So I actually could argue with Lou Brock, but.
Yeah, but there's only one guy that longevity helped him, and he had 3,000 hits. There's only one guy in history, and that's Robin Yount, that had a worse on-base percentage than him with people that have had 3,000 hits.
He stole more bases than anybody in the history of the game when he retired. That's
so he can run. That's only one stat, in my opinion.
Right.
I mean, he didn't lead the league in errors. I mean, he steals.
Yeah.
But you're right. I mean, it's certainly less valuable, but there's a long list on dudes who shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame, in my opinion.
Yes.
Yep, I agree. All right. Okay, so let's get down to it. Let's talk about who should be that isn't. Now, this could be somebody that can't get in anymore, or maybe is still eligible, or maybe just retired, and whatever it may be. But Jeff, we'll start with you, buddy. And who do you think should be in?
I have 9. I will only mention 1, but even if I'm the only one talking here in the end, I'm going to name the other 8 after you guys talk. So it's not the one I'm going to talk about. He's not the one that's highest on the list on the most egregious. And there are some that are insanely egregious, in my opinion, and I'll talk about him if I get a chance. But my favorite all-time player should be in the Hall of Fame, and his name is Steve Garvey. Let me sell you on why I'm right. 10 All-Star games. Now, he wasn't Kirby Puckett All-Star games either, and I love Kirby Puckett. This was on one of the best teams in baseball for most of his career. 10 All-Star games.
The Ken Doll.
World Series champion 81, All-Star game MVP twice, NL MVP in 74. He actually made the All-Star team as a write-in. Now, I know that's popularity. He wasn't even on the ballot when the ballot was a thing. They gave you the piece of paper. He wasn't even on the ballot. So many people put him in. That's pretty impressive. Clemente Award winner. He was a good guy. His manager for most of his career, Tommy Lasorda, said if he was alone in a room with my daughter, he would lock him in and never let him out. That's what a nice guy Lasorda said he was. Part of the greatest longevity infield in the history of baseball. One of the guys who hit 30 home runs on 77 Dodgers. They had 4. It was a big deal at the time. This is when nobody hit 40 home runs. So it was a different thing. 81 All-Star MVP. I think I said that. NLCS MVP twice. The most important hits in the history of a franchise, and it's the Padres.
The home run. Yeah.
The Hall of Famer Lee Smith. His greatest series ever was in 84 as a Padre. Nobody even talks about it except for my friends in San Diego. The longest, I know you're a Cal Ripken fan, the longest Iron Man in the history of the National League. Mm-hmm. That's huge. Mm-hmm. In 1984, he was the first baseman who played more than 150 games ever to not commit an error. Keep in mind, he was a first baseman. You get thrown the ball 20 times a game. Nobody in the history of the game had not committed an error as a first baseman and played 150 games in a row. He did that or more. I don't even know why it's arguable, and I don't know. And he's not one of the people that people talk about. So while I've got 9 and he's not number 1 on the list for the most obvious, in my opinion, he's getting screwed, and I don't know why. He should be a Hall of Famer. What say you guys?
Miguel?
All right. And real quick, I just got to clean this up. So, Jeff, Walt is actually an Eddie Murray fan. He thinks Cal got a little too much credit. So every time you bring up I just feel like we got to clarify that. So, but
we can talk about that if you like. I have lots of numbers to back this stuff up if you'd like to.
No, I'm not disagreeing with you. I know that you feel strongly about that, so I felt like I needed to say it. All right, so I'm gonna kind of backtrack here. Okay, so we're looking at, and by the way, I have no problem with the pick. Steve Garvey, great baseball player. Compare numbers with Kirby Puckett. Okay. Keep in mind, Steve Garvey, first baseman. Kirby Puckett, center fielder. He actually had to play defense, right? Kirby Puckett, 6 Gold Gloves. Garvey, 4 Gold Gloves. And again, at a very different position. Much higher batting average for Kirby Puckett. So I just think these are that's my point, just to kind of defend Kirby Puckett. But I have no problem.
I mean, you're right. So let me fire back on the Golden Glove thing.
Yeah.
The reason he only had 4, he was the best defensive first baseman by far until a guy named Keith Hernandez came along, arguably the greatest defensive first baseman in our lifetime. And I still don't like Keith Hernandez. It's not his fault. It's because he won all those Golden Gloves, but he deserved it. He was great. But Garvey was certainly
and that's a fair point. But if you had to pick a position that plays the least amount of defense, right, you're going to hide a guy on first base. That's my point. I think playing center field is a different world. And so,
I mean, Kirby, as a defensive player, Kirby was a better defensive player. I give you that. Kirby was outstanding. I loved him out there.
But
Steve?
yeah. So,
Steve, what do you think of Steve Garvey?
Well, I definitely think he should be in, but
has nothing to do with the hat on your head, right?
No, it has nothing to do with the head on my head. The guy, like Jeff said, the guy is good, and his numbers, some of them are better than Kirby, some of them are not better than Kirby's. In my opinion, I think people are not going to agree with me. I think first base is a harder position to play than center field. Any outfielder can move around, and it's the same. But in college and little league, you don't see as many left-handed batters, so it makes it a little bit different. But in the Major League Baseball, when you have left and right-handed batters, that becomes the other hot corner. So you do see a lot of balls. And like Jeff said, how many people are going to throw to first base during there too? That guy sees. He made no errors in a whole season.
One season.
But okay, his whole career was like that though. His whole career was like that though. Yeah. Not with 0 errors, but he didn't make hardly any errors, and he touched the ball, I would venture to say, 5 times more than Kirby Puckett ever did. So I understand the pick, and it's not just on defense though; it is on offense. Yes, he played more games than Kirby did, so his numbers are better on offense as well. But I do think he's deserved to get in there. He's one of the best to ever play his position.
Okay, I don't think he's a Hall of Famer. He played 19 seasons. He's got a lifetime on base percentage. We were talking about somebody with 299. He's 329 lifetime on base percentage. That's not very good either. He's got and what's really funny is his batting average for a lifetime is 294. Mm-hmm. So he didn't walk at all. It seems like his home runs were 272. That's not bad. Again, it's the Hall of Fame, not the Hall of Very Good. He's a really good player. But I don't know that he's a Hall of Famer. And I love Steve Garvey. Great guy, clutch player at times, but I don't know. That's just my opinion.
So let me throw back a little bit. He didn't walk ever because
no. But I'm just saying you got a lifetime batting average of 94, but your on base percentage is 29.
He was striking out, swinging at pitches to knock guys in because the game dictated. He was the cleanup hitter. I mean. He wasn't
but he didn't strike out very much at all. Look at his career.
No, that's what I'm saying. He was we'll sort of put him in there at the 4 spot to knock guys in. You can't do that not swinging.
Okay, but his slugging is 446.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
I don't know.
He was also an NL MVP, and he was the National League Championship Series MVP twice.
I'm with you. I mean,
he's better than a lot of guys that are in the Hall of Fame.
That are first baseman?
First baseman, I would probably say yes. I have to do some research, but yeah.
Okay.
I think he's one of the best first basemen to ever play the game.
I agree.
Okay. Coming from 2 Dodger fans.
Look, I can distinguish between my teams and not. Can't. I can. And Steve Garvey is one of the best first basemen to ever play the game.
I'm just kidding, man. I'm just kidding. All right. That's a good start. Miguel, what about you, buddy?
All right. So I stayed away from the controversies, but because I'm embarrassed of my pick now, I'm just going to go ahead and throw the controversy out there. So I'll say Pete Rose. And I think Pete Rose, as we said earlier, fringe player. I'm looking at character. I'm looking at, various different things. And that can make or break. But he was so good that I don't think it's meaningful to not have him in the Hall of Fame. Like, it doesn't make sense. I'm okay keeping so far, Major League Baseball has kind of taken a stand against the guys that were shown to be doping and performance enhancing drugs and all that. Fine, I'm good with that because it affects the way they play the game. But nothing Pete Rose did off the field affected the way he played the game. I think it's kind of silly at this point to keep him out, honestly.
Okay, Jeff?
Pete Rose is a prick. I've met the guy.
Jeff.
He is as bad as they say times 1,000. As a ball player on the field, I loved that man. I played. No, I didn't. I, in my brain, in my fantasies, played like him. I wanted to be that guy because he gave it his all. I loved him. I think his longevity speaks for itself. He's the Nolan Ryan of hitters. As a player, he should be a Hall of Famer. And when we start talking about guys like Clemens and Bonds and people that I'm sure will get mentioned here, I hope I don't sound like a hypocrite, but Pete Rose should not be in the Hall of Fame because he's a freaking cheater. He cheated by being a manager and betting on games, knowing his situation better than everyone else, knowing his bullpen situation better than everybody else, knowing the injuries better than everyone else. And I hate to do that because I have a very different opinion on steroids and some other things, and I'm guessing we're going to talk about it. But every year they walk in and they tell you, you sign this, you know this, don't bet on the game. And he lied. And he was given chances just recently they gave him his 20th chance. I think as a ball player, it's hard to not have him in there. But he's a lying liar, and he put a stain on our game, and I love it. And it's hard for me because I've actually argued the other way. 4,000 hits. He was an all-star all the time. He was an MVP. He was an all-star at 4 positions. The argument as a player, there's no argument.
But even what you said was as a manager. And I'm not, by the way, I'm not approving of any of it, by the way.
I know.
So I mean, to me, with the numbers, it's uncomfortable for me at this point for him to not be.
This is kind of hard for Miguel. You're right.
It's ridiculous. Yeah, but I mean, I hear you, and it matters. I'm not saying
I've argued on both sides of this. That's how conflicted I am.
But his numbers almost cover a multitude of sins because they're just so far above everything.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard.
Yeah. So
Steve,
Look, I've made it no secret. We did a previous stream. This guy might be the most deserved person to be in the Hall of Fame above all other baseball players to ever play this game. His numbers dictate that. When he bet as a player, he bet on his team to win. He didn't bet on them to lose. He didn't throw games. He didn't do.
Well, wait, let him give us.
He bet on his team to win, unless So what? He pulled a Martha Stewart, had some inside information. May have made some bad calls when he knew things. They had some inside information. Things were going to go. This guy played the game better than anybody in the history of the game. His numbers dictate that 100%. The most deserved person above anybody not in the Hall of Fame to be in that Hall of Fame.
Okay. Jeff, you want to rebuttal that before I give my opinion on Pete Rose?
I mean, I love Pete Rose. He was a great player, but he was Joe Morgan, Johnny Bench, all those guys who were in his clubhouse are all saying absolutely not.
Gotcha. Okay.
People didn't like Ty Cobb either.
Well, fair enough. Here's what I'll say about Pete Rose. I'm really passionate about this kind of stuff when it comes to baseball. There's no other sport I love more than, I'll get serious for a second. He's not a Hall of Famer because he signed a lifetime ban. He agreed to it. He cheated. He knew the rules. He decided to bend the rules. I don't care if he was a coach or a player. You know the rules. You forfeited your right to get into the Hall of Fame when you did this. So now your numbers are null and void. If you didn't agree to the lifetime ban, why did you sign the papers? You can't do that. He's a cheater. He did what he did. He has great numbers, but it's all back. I'm sorry. It's gray area for me. Don't do it, and you'll get in. It's that simple. He had a problem. I understand he had a problem. I get it. Gambling is a problem. God bless him. I hope he can get it handled. That's my opinion. I'm sorry. You can make excuses all we want, but you cheated. They told you can't cheat. You signed the lifetime ban. You agreed to the ban. End of story.
He came out afterwards saying, too, that he signed the lifetime ban because he thought it would get him into the Hall of Fame. I'm just saying he would have done it.
Be smarter then.
We're going to talk. I mean, we want to talk about cheaters and people that have been caught cheating and everything like that. Tom Brady, not in the Hall of Fame ever. You're going to have Barry Bonds, not in the Hall of Fame ever. These guys have done things and been caught doing them. And if we're going to hold him to the same standards, these guys are, in my opinion, far worse than what he did.
Barry Bonds.
And we'll go ahead. Go ahead, Jeff. No, go ahead.
Strictly on the field, Barry Bonds is 10 times the rare Pete Rose ever was.
But
okay.
But if we want to talk about cheating, his numbers were enhanced by the performance enhancers that he was taking.
Yeah,
Pete Rose bet on games.
And I think
but he
We're going to be here a while.
But he could have changed the course of games as a manager. You can say he bet on his own team. How do we know he didn't bet against his team? How do we know when he could have?
I don't care about the managerial stuff.
Nothing that he did enhanced his ability to win. Where these other guys that we're talking about enhanced their ability to recover and to play. So my point is his numbers were not affected by the things that he did.
Fair.
That's my point.
Well, but were they or were they not? How do we know? Again, we can only go off of what we know, and I'm speculating here, but how do we know he didn't go 0 for 4 on the day when he bet against himself?
Oh, sure. That would only make his numbers worse, though, not better. So what I'm saying, like, he didn't go out and have a 4 for 4 because he had bet a lot of money on it, right? Like, this was just his ability. That's my point.
That's fair. No, that's fair. It's a great argument by everybody.
If you're talking about on the field as a player, there's no argument he's a Hall of Famer.
Right. Yeah, I
agree with that. Things with Pete Rose. And I'm going to come off like a hypocrite when we start talking about steroids. I know I am, but I'm ready for that.
Steve, who's your pick, buddy? Who should be in that's not in?
Well, going back to something very, very similar, because I had these two at the top of my list, and I knew somebody would probably say Pete Rose before I got to him. I'm going with Shoeless Joe Jackson for pretty much the same kind of reasons, because I know they threw the games. I know they threw things, but not him. His numbers didn't warrant him trying to throw a game. His numbers didn't have the whole entire, what was it, the 1918 or 08? 1919. So the 1919 team threw the World Series, correct? Is that what it was, the World Series?
Yeah,
they threw the World Series except for him. The guy had monstrous numbers throughout his career.
Buck Weaver got screwed too.
Well, he's not the only one. I would say that there's a few of them, but they got banned as a group because of the team effort. Nothing he did warranted him showing any signs of throwing that game.
Okay. All right.
But he's another one that will not be in because of that situation.
Jeff?
Deeply agree. Joe Jackson, one of the greatest players of all time, absolutely should be in the Hall of Fame.
Miguel?
Yeah, I agree with Steve. Even in this case, we're still talking about a game being thrown, right, which wasn't proven on Pete Rose's, but I agree, Steve. His numbers don't warrant it. They haven't been able to show that he was personally, involved, and so I think he's deserving as well. It's kind of an innocent till proven guilty kind of,
Well,
so they bring in. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. I just say I agree. I think he's a great player. I don't know that there's enough that we have on him to be able to say, yes, okay, maybe he batted 360 in that World Series, but maybe he could have batted 400. Okay? I mean I'm sorry. There are guys that have done it. Billy Hatcher batted 420. Chris Sabo batted over 400 in a World Series, and they're not even close to the player that he is. So it can happen. You just never know. I'm sorry. When that word starts coming up, you wonder how.
But he led both teams in the World Series in most statistical categories, not just his own team. He led both teams. He had 12 base hits in that World Series alone.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't. There's nothing that would ever convince me that he did anything other than play the game.
Fair enough.
The commissioner, Mountain Landis, did the right thing. He saved baseball. It might have died. He did the right thing. He didn't want to have them saying, I wonder if this game's on the up and up. And he saved baseball. Buck Weaver and Joe Jackson got screwed, but Joe
Okay.
Jackson did all things.
Gotcha. All right, great. So my pick for me, and Steve, that's a great pick. My pick is going to be a more recent guy who I think possibly could get in down the road, but I think he's a player that's always overlooked, and I think he's a really good player, and that's Scott Rowland. I think Scott Rowland's a Hall of Famer. This guy is a great two-way player. When I say two-way, I mean both offensively and defensively. Incredibly defensively, he's fantastic. This guy is 316 home runs, 1,287 RBIs, 2,077 hits, 118 stolen bases, 281 lifetime batting average, 364 on-base percentage. Only six third basemen all time have a higher WAR than him. He is an 8-time Gold Glove winner, 7-time All-Star, and he was never tied to PEDs, period. I think he's a highly underrated player who never gets talked about, who is a great all-around player. And for third base, which is an incredibly hard position to play, Scott Rowland. What do you guys think of Scott Rowland?
Who wants to go?
Go ahead, Jeff.
I think that's a brilliant pick. He's not on my list. I've got 9 on my list. Rowland's not one of them, but you're right. 9th, I think, on all-time WAR. I just looked. I don't know what you said, but
yeah,
he was an RBI machine. He was the best player on a bunch of teams, 2 different teams, Cardinals and Phillies, right? I think that's right. And the best defensive third baseman probably of his era. I may not be remembering somebody.
Beltre's pretty good. Adrian Beltre's really good.
Yeah, I love Adrian Beltre. You're right. But yeah, that's a brilliant pick. He's not on my list, and I feel like I need to add one. That's a brilliant pick.
Miguel?
Yeah, so I've never admitted this publicly on our streams because then I can't give Walt a hard time for the Orioles, but I'm actually a Florida Miami Marlins fan. So
they need you.
But my point in bringing that up is, so I saw Rowland playing against the Marlins on a regular basis when he was young, and he was a stud from day one. He was just really, really good. I think it's a good pick. Solid. Yeah.
Steve?
Oh yeah, I think he's a good pick, and he's an Indiana boy from Evansville. He is good. But the one thing I do want to mention, because I want to go back, I'm going to say this: Steve Garvey, higher lifetime batting average than Scott Rowland. Hits. Steve Garvey has almost 600 more. RBIs. Steve Garvey has a whole lot more. So if you're going to play,
games did he play than him?
But
did Rowland have a short career?
What's that?
Why did Rowland retire early? What's the deal there? I don't.
He played. I don't know how many seasons he played. He played from 1996 to 2012. So he played 17 seasons, and Garvey played 19.
Yep.
So I'm just gonna say if we're gonna talk one, and a guy that touches the ball a lot more in Garvey, I think is more deserved. But
I love the Rowland pick.
I do agree Rollins should be there.
Okay.
So real quick, can I just toss out the guy I was going to mention? And then we don't have to chat about it long. So I was going to throw out Fred McGriff. And it might be because of my own kind of, when I was growing up watching baseball. But 5-time All-Star, World Series champion, helped the Braves finally win a World Series. Led the MLB in home runs twice. 3-time Silver Slugger, just under 2,500 hits, just under 500 home runs. So that was but I think the reason I didn't end up mentioning him is as I kept hearing Walt talk about the Hall very good. Maybe McGriff was just very good. I don't know, but I think he's close.
He's
I may,
close.
I'm sorry.
No, Jeff, go ahead. I just say he's close.
I love McGriff. Peak value, those 2 years, one of the best players in the league. I don't think he's Hall of Famer though, but I really liked him.
Yep. Steve?
I liked him because wasn't his nickname Crime Dog?
Yes,
It was.
I mean, that's the reason why I like him. But he was a solid player. He's deserved to be there over some of the other people that are in there. What I consider what should be the Hall of Fame, again, I think there's way too many people in there. He wouldn't be in there yet, maybe eventually, but it would be possible. He'd be one of my borderline fence guys.
He's better than Jim Rice.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, he is. So Jeff, I don't want to get in because that's a whole nother stream, and maybe we can do it down the road. I don't want to get majorly into PEDs, and I'm sure some of those names will come up. But I do want you to mention some of the other people, and then we'll kind of wrap things up. I know we're running way over. Thank you, everybody in the chat.
On my list, guys who most definitely should be in the Hall of Fame: Roger Clemens, duh. Barry Bonds, duh. Roger Maris, maybe more arguable. Mark McGwire, duh. Oral Hershiser, maybe more arguable. And Tommy John. And I could probably lose in an argument on Tommy John, but not if you let me talk long enough. Tommy John should be in the Hall of Fame.
Okay. Anybody have anybody else? Steve?
Yeah, I had Maris as well and Clemens. I also have Don Mattingly. I think Don Mattingly is deserved to be in the Hall of Fame. And I do think some of these guys will get there eventually.
I love Mattingly, but I don't think he's a Hall of Famer, but I love the Mattingly.
All right. Miguel, anybody else?
The only other one I was looking at, Gary Sheffield, I thought maybe, but that was about it.
Gotcha.
He's arguable.
And for me, yeah, he did. Quick hands, really quick hands.
Yeah.
I mean, really, for the way he held that bat, his hands were incredibly fast.
Some guys who tried to emulate, nobody tried to emulate him.
No, not even now.
Yeah.
But and for me, I don't have anybody else right now. I am extremely hard on players getting into the Baseball Hall of Fame. I'm sorry. You really have to wow me to get in my opinion. And I know that's being prudish and snotty, but I'm sorry. You better bring it if you're getting into the Hall of Fame with me. And so there aren't too many. And Roland, even if you were to say he's not getting in, I wouldn't lose sleep over it. But so there you go.
Jim with More Sunshine Please says Lou Whitaker and Mickey Lolich.
Mickey Lolich is a really good player. Lou Whitaker was a good player. Great combination with him and Alan Trammell as a double team combination. But I don't know.
So if you're saying Mickey Lolich, you got to say Jack Morris, right? I mean,
Jack Morris?
Mickey Lolich
was
really good, but
look,
Jack Morris was better.
Other than Don Larson pitching the perfect game in the World Series, Jack Morris pitched the second greatest game in World Series history. A 10-inning shutout. I'm sorry.
One game does not make a Hall of Fame worthy.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't.
I don't think he's saying Don Larson. He's just saying,
No,
but I'm just saying he pitched the second greatest game in World Series history.
And if he didn't pitch that day for you, Steve, Jack Morris he almost made my list of guys I think should be there. So I do think greatness on a big stage matters if it's added to a career. Jack Morris had a great career. Career.
Yeah. Well, everybody, that's going to do it. We definitely appreciate everybody hanging in there. I know we ran over by a lot, and we definitely appreciate everybody. This was just such a great topic for us that we could talk for hours. But before we head out, I want to go around the table real fast. Everybody, please plug your challenge. Jeff, we'll start with you, buddy. Go ahead.
I got a video posted here in a little bit. I got tomorrow night. I've got Pepper Tree Villa on. I've got a couple people lined up for the next couple of weeks on DizTube. It's going to be a lot of good stuff. Let me hide this idiot.
Please,
Barry Bonds versus Pete Rose. We need to have that chat. That's what I want to say at the end.
Gotcha. Miguel?
Yeah, so check out A Disney Life for Me tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We start Disney Trivia over again for the month of June. And then Tuesday nights at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Disney Talk Tuesday.
Fantastic. And Steve, partner channel?
Yep, obviously we do this together on a weekly basis, and I have so much fun. I'm glad we can get some special guests here, especially guys that are passionate about what we feel passionate about. So thank you both for being here, and we'll definitely have you both on again in the future for sure. So we do Sports Night every Saturday. I got my own show on Monday nights at 8 o'clock, and then I'm starting a new adventure with the Shep family and Zippity Doodad and Brandy and Dave Wednesday nights at 9:30. Just kind of I don't know. We don't even know what it's called or what we're doing. We just got together on Google Hangouts and said, "Hey, why don't we go live?" And it kind of turned into a thing. So we'll figure it out as we go.
Steve,
what's that?
What channel?
It was on Shep Family's last week. This next week, it's going to be on the Zippity Doodads channel on Wednesday at 9:30.
Is it going to rotate?
It'll rotate for now until we figure out what. It actually is. We called it. We may even kind of a joke may stick. Whatever this is, because we didn't know where we were going with it. So we'll figure it out.
May I ask a question real fast?
Yeah.
Did any of you guys follow the chat? Because chat was freaking hilarious.
Yeah, about the ice cream and the ice cold music. I was watching it. It's great.
And thank you.
Love it.
Thank you to everybody in the chat for hanging in there. Everybody was wonderful. You know who you are. Thank you to everybody who hung in there. We definitely appreciate everybody in the chat. I'm sorry we didn't get to a little Disney tonight. This topic was definitely one that we were all very passionate about, and we knew it was going to take a while. So thank you to everybody. Please check out all these channels. They're wonderful channels. We're very lucky to have them. My partner channel, Steve's World. Thank you, buddy. Miguel, Disney Life for Me. Thank you for being here. And Jeff, Dole Whip Dad. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
And everybody in the chat, please take care of yourselves and each other, and we'll talk to everybody really, really soon. Have a great night, everybody.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.